Hello fam, how are you, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. But before I proceed, guys, I just want to say please subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. Yes, I'm talking about you. I'm watching you. Yeah, just click that like button and subscribe to the channel. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. And once more, welcome back. Today I want to talk about African leaders. Most of the times the West label our leaders dictators. Or why do they label our leaders as dictators? And most of the time we intend to believe them because of what they portray or put out on their mainstream media. But what I mean by mainstream media is white media, as we know. Now, are our leaders dictators? Let's try and analyze and look at it in this way. When our leaders are complying with what the West wants, they are labeled as heroes of Africa, likable individuals, lovey-dovey. Whenever they invite them to these meetings, they go and attend. You know, they sing praises on them. But once they stop adhering or doing what the West wants them to do, they automatically become dictators. Now, the problem with this thing is this. There are two ways about this. If they are portraying them to be lovey-doveys, which means they are oppressing their own people and doing what the West want them to do. This is a fact. Any African leader who is being praised by mainstream media, you must know that he's a sellout or is a puppet to the West and Europe, and is working against his people. And any leader that the West says is a dictator, is bad for the country, that leader is good for the people of his country and the African continent at large. Now, we all know what happened in Libya. Libya is just an example that I want to give, or let me not go there because most of them are not melanin dominant human beings who stay there. Let me put it like, let's say, Robert Mugabe, just here in Southern Africa, in Zimbabwe. Now, was Robert Mugabe a dictator or a bad person to his people? Try to look at the history. You'll see him with the Queen right here enjoying. By this time, he was a very good person. He was a very good leader to liberate the African continent. You see him here again with these political heads or elites of Europe and America. This time Mugabe was a very, very much likable person to their media and to them because he was doing what they were telling him to do. Now, when Mugabe turned his back against them after seeing what they wanted to do, they labeled him as a dictator and a bad person and a bad leader. Now, why do they always want to mingle or poke their nose in our business as Africans? If a leader wants to extend his stay in power or in the seat of authority, to them it becomes a problem. But the Queen, how many years has she stayed there? Of course, it's a monarchy, I know. The German Chancellor, before she was removed, is it this lady, German Chancellor, how many years did she sit there? To them, that is okay. But when an African leader wants to sit on the seat of power and control things, not listen to mainstream media, not becoming a puppet, then he is labeled a dictator. Of course, you know, African leaders, whenever they come or start oppressing their people, we need to look at it in this way. Don't just believe because the mainstream media is saying now this guy is a dictator. No. When they refuse to do what the West wants them to do, the West start using people in that country who are under them, who, let me say, like they are puppets. Now, they use those puppets of theirs to start destabilizing the country, and they sponsor those puppets so that they can remove the head of state. Now, if the head of states realize what is happening, what do you think he's going to do? You think he's just going to sit and say, okay, yeah, let the West do whatever they want by these people that they are trying to sponsor? He's going to retaliate, and by retaliating, most of them now, they take it a step further in order for them to cement their power, and they start oppressing their people even more, because they know that the West are the ones who are sponsoring these people who wants to come and take over the countries and steal our natural resources. Now we've got people like Mobutu Sese Seko, got people like Idi Amin, even though at the end of the day he started doing bad things to his own people because of the pressure of the West. Now imagine what Donald Trump did in the United States, telling people or inciting violence to storm the Capitol. If it was an African leader who did that, oh my God. By now we could have been hearing this African leader trying to destroy the democracy of the country. Yeah, he's a dictator. He needs to be jailed. In fact, an African leader would have done that. He would have even been tried by now by the international community court. International court. But we don't see that with Donald Trump. Why? Because he ran these things called democracy, media, and whatever they want to talk about. When it comes to Africans, they want to destabilize us by controlling how our countries must be run. And when our leaders refuse to adhere to what they are doing, automatically they become dictators. Now, Africans, we need to wake up. When our leaders are telling us that the West are not good, we intend to not to believe, we want to believe what the media is telling us instead of listening to what our leaders are doing. Of course, they will retaliate. They don't want to remove. It's only a few leaders who actually accepted to leave power. Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia. You understand? When they knew that the time is up, people don't want them, they evacuated. They left the place. They left the seat of power. That takes a person with a big heart to leave that kind of place of authority whereby you can command 1,000 people to jump when they jump. You understand? America and the West, America, Europe, and other countries in Europe or in the West must stop interfering with African politics and let our leaders run their countries the way they are supposed to be run. I think Africa, we need to go back to our old ways of living and our old ways of governing things instead of this democracy. This democracy has got a lot of loopholes for people from outside to come and control us here in Africa. Because to be honest with you, they run the show. They run the show. And that is what we need to avoid. Guys, read and go back in history and see where all this chaos starts. Our leaders don't have a problem. Our problem has always been outside interference by the West and Europe. When we start to educate ourselves about these things, we'll start realizing and seeing these people for who they are. And when I mean by these people, I mean the West, I mean Europe and the mainstream media. Greedy, corrupt officials, greedy, corrupt politicians who wants to take everything for themselves, just to take. And guys, don't listen to mainstream. It's high time we stopped listening to these BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera's and start producing our own out there, which is accurate, informative, accurate, and truthful about our continent. It is up to you and me to change the narratives of this continent. And our brothers, of course, in the diaspora, they need to come. In order for Africa to be great again, we need to be one and unite and push this continent forward as a people. Our leaders don't have a problem. They have never been a problem. The problem has always been the West and Europe interfering in the affairs of this continent. So guys, thank you so much for watching and sharp.